All for joining for this hearing of the zoning committee here tonight. Want to thank folks for being here. I know we got a little bit of a different format here at council, thanks to the council president. So we're going to be learning from this new setup for public hearings here at council. But want to thank certainly my colleagues for being here tonight. President Hardin, who you'll hear from here in just a moment. But certainly Councilmember Weich, Barosa de Padilla, Councilmember Beatty, and I believe Councilmember Remy will also be joining here in a little while as well. Certainly our zoning team and the city attorney's office, thank you for being here. We have Louis Tabuff, our project manager for the zoning initiative. We also have Building Zoning Services Director Scott Messer, our chief zoning official Shannon Pine. Thank you for all being here and preparing for the hearing here tonight. So I want to thank my staff here at council, Kevin McCain, from our Legislative Research Office, Andy McDonald and Ariel Garrett to get us here tonight. Appreciate members of the public that have turned out for this hearing about the 161 Northland corridor update for the first phase of Zone In and potential additional legislation that would go along with this update to the first phase of Zone In, including in Title 33 and Title 34. You'll hear a little bit about this here tonight, but Title 33 is the old zoning code that still we process day-to-day zonings under, that the vast majority of the city is still currently zoned, whereas Title 34 is the new zoning code, which we first created last summer, which we're moving towards rezoning all of Columbus under that new zoning code to update our zoning code to finally catch up to what Columbus actually looks like today and what we wanted to grow into the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. This is the second public hearing we've had for this update. The first was held back in April 14th during that 60-day public comment period. I know that there's many people that were interested in the next phase, full phase of Zone In, so that'll be the second phase. I know my colleagues and I are excited to start to talk to the public about that here soon, and we'll be announcing more details on that phase here later this summer with the mayor. As phase 2 is still being contemplated, we're here tonight to conclude the first phase updates from the Zone In that we passed last summer. Tonight we're going to hear from the zoning team about the overview of the final legislation for this update and the Northland 161 corridor. And again, updates to Title 33, Title 34, and any changes that have been made from the original proposal that came before council back in April, and potentially additional legislation to go alongside that update here as well. Again, we're here tonight in council chambers, but you can stream this hearing on CTV and council's Facebook and YouTube pages. There'll also be a record of this event posted on our YouTube page following. For those who are in attendance, you are still able to speak up at this hearing if you'd like. If you'd like to fill out a public speaker slip, you can find Kevin McCain from the Legislative Research Office. He's the gentleman in the back raising his hand. So if you've not signed up to speak tonight, please visit with Kevin and he'll get you signed up, and we'll be able to address the body at the end of the meeting. Before I turn over the presenters, I want to acknowledge and give the opportunity for my colleague in good on this project, the council president, as we've been talking about modernizing our zoning code for close to 2 years now. Yeah. And this is, a small update, but a meaningful one as we head towards the next phase. So, Council President?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anybody who knows me knows that I like process. And one of my favorite things about working with the chair of this committee, President Pro Tem Dorans, is that he runs a phenomenal process. It's one of listening, engaging, having open conversations, being in transparency, being upfront about what we are talking about. And so as we go into these next conversations around where we go from zoning, I think the important thing to take away from today and where we're going is that Zone In phase 1 obviously was not the end all, that we are continuing to lean in. We are continuing to have these conversations. You are going to hear us normalize these types of conversations about how we use our land and what is best, how do we best make it good for our city now, but also as we grow and change. And so it's really just an invitation to continue along with us. It will always be open, it will always be transparent, and we will always invite you to share your thoughts and help drive these conversations. So, Chair, thank you for having us. to all my colleagues, thank you for us trying this. This is a new kind of format to bring us off the dais, and they love it. The council members love it. So I'm sure we'll be doing this. No, but seriously, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. And before I turn it over to Building and Zoning Services Director Scott Messer, I just want to underline a point from the Council President that the intention of the zoning initiative is in fact to rezone the whole city. So the first phase rezoned about 4% of Columbus. The current phase, current update we have in front of us is less than 300 parcels, which is a small amount compared to that first phase. And the next phases of Zone In will likely cover significant more portions of the city. But the intention is for us, whether or not it's in an update here we're considering today, or whether or not it's a future phase a year or 2 years from now, that certainly we are going to modernize our land use policies across Columbus, because we know we have to, given the growth of Columbus and the housing needs and the ability for us to have a more connected city overall. So with that, I'd love to turn the floor over to our Director of Building and Zoning Services, Scott Messer.
Thanks, President Pro Tem and President Hardin, other members of council. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Appreciate those who are in attendance. Looking forward to talking about the Phase 1 update. As President Pro Tem Dorans mentioned, it's a small update compared to what we did in the initial Phase 1 parcels, but there are some meaningful changes in addition to the actual rezoning of the 161 300 or so parcels that we talked about. There's some other meaningful changes that my Chief Zoning Officer, Shannon Pine, will be talking about, and Louis Tiba, who's our project manager, will be going over. So we're excited. I want to echo my thanks to the team, both council members and their teams who have been helping us with all of these changes and working through Zone In. I think, from an administration standpoint, we've been extremely fortunate to have so many of the council members and the leadership of council so engaged in the Zone In process, and it's been invaluable and wouldn't be able to be done. I think if you follow these kind of Zone In updates around the country, you don't always find such committed, dedicated council members who get behind these kinds of initiatives. So we're very thankful for that. Those are my comments. I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Louis Tiba, who is our Zone In Columbus Project Manager.
Yes, President Pro Tem Dorans, President Hardin, members of council. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak to you today about the 161 project. So, do we have a PowerPoint or we don't? Okay. So what we have for you today is we have 3 ordinances that we're going to be presenting. The first ordinance is going to be map updates. This includes 161 and small map corrections. The second ordinance is going to be the Title 33 code edits. And the third ordinance is going to be the Title 34 code edits. I'll do the first ordinance and Shannon Pine will do the second two. So the first ordinance is going to be broken up into 2 sections. The first one is the Zone In Phase 1 update for State Route 161 in Northland. And the second part will be those map corrections that I'll discuss. So that's really small up there. I apologize. So we had our, I'm here to give you just an update on the public engagement that we've had so far with 161, as well as engagement, survey results, and present the final map to you. So you can see for the 161 public engagement, we did a 60-day public comment period that ended just recently. We did over 1,800 mailers to property owners, tenants, and those within 125 feet. We had 2 council hearings, this being the second one. We had an online map survey, which was up for 60 days. We did promotion on social media and the Zone In project website. We met with the Northland Community Council full council. We met with them 5 times. The Northland Community Council Zone In subcommittee, we met with them 6 times. We did 2 library pop-ups in Northland. We met with the Northland Area Business Association and the Northland Task Force. So we've done pretty robust community engagement for this portion of 161. And I want to stress that this was a community-driven proposal. I talked about that last time, but the community came to us, council members came to us, and they asked us, can we include this in Phase 1? and that's what drove this effort. And we received strong support from the Northland Area Business Association, the 161 Task Force, and Elevate Northland. They have provided letters of support for this update. And we received support from the community overall, which we think is reflected in our survey, which I'll talk about in a minute. Further engagement, we did social media. We've done several posts. We had a reach of 22,000. We had 265 likes. We had 68 comments and some shares. And we also did our email blast to the email group that we had for phase one. And we had some good results and some good open rates on those. So here is what was approved in phase one of zone in the area. You can see that 161, there was some that was rezoned on Cleveland Avenue, and that was RAC, Regional Activity Center, which has a 7-story height limit and 10 stories with the bonus, affordability bonus. On Cleveland Avenue going north, you can see there's Community Activity Center, which has 5-story height limit with a 2-story bonus to 7. You can see over there by Bush Boulevard, we have the Regional Activity Center as well. This is what we are proposing here for this rezoning. You can see we have 2 zoning categories that stretch pretty much from Worthington in the west over to Ponderosa in the east. And what we have there is we have 160 parcels, we have 2.5 miles of corridor, and we have Community Activity Center and Urban General 2. Urban General 2 has a 4-story height limit without a bonus. It's just a small portion there. These determinations, we determined these zoning districts based off of the size of the parcels and other site-specific conditions. Now, and the parcels that you see to the east there, to the east of Cleveland Avenue, those were added after our initial proposal based off of community input from Northland residents. They asked us to include those parcels over there to the east of Cleveland Avenue. Now, the zoning team, we did remove a small number of properties from the proposal due to a combination of site-specific circumstances and existing underlying zoning. These qualities, we feel, will make them more appropriate for future phases of zone-in work. So there have been some slight changes. And here at this next slide, you can see what we are proposing combined with what was completed in phase one. You can see how the Community Activity Center connects those nodes of Regional Activity Center. So what will be the result? I think this kind of shows what the whole point of zone-in is and why we're doing this work. Our current zoning on the left, you can see that we have, I think, about 20 different zoning and limitation districts all combined on this 2.5 mile stretch of roadway. And with this rezoning, we will limit that down to 3. The Community Activity Center, the UGN2, and the Regional Activity Center. Additionally, besides just the zoning, there are 12 council variances on this 2.5 mile stretch and 15 BZA variances. And we're going from a zoning districts, a group of zoning districts that do not have any design guidelines to zoning districts that will have objective design guidelines. So our survey results, so we had that 60-day online survey. We had 305 survey responses. The response rate to our mailers was fairly good. Phase one had an 11% response rate. Our 161 corridor had 16%. And you can see that for the most part, how they commented, the majority of individuals was that 69% wanted to vote or wanted to comment on the proposal in general, with the remainder wanting to comment on site-specific areas. Of those who did respond, you can see there that the people who responded to the survey in general, 91% supported the proposal as was presented, and 9% selected other. And then for individuals who selected to respond to specific blocks or specific areas of the map, in that area we had around a 35 to 52, I can't read this is so small, 30 to 50, or no, it would be 35 to 65, I believe, was that response rate. Of those individuals who commented other, 35 supported the specific district, 62% chose other, and 50 of the 94 individuals who commented on a specific area of the map related to a specific area where we made adjustments to the map. Finally, we have a portion of map corrections as part of this ordinance. So in phase one, we did 12,300 parcels. It's a huge amount of parcels, and but we weren't perfect. 2 parcels slipped past us in that entire area. And they were a parcel down on the south side between Williams and Southgate. It is zoned CPD, and it should be Community Activity Center. And then we have one by the Lyndon War Memorial at the intersection of Cleveland and Westerville Road, where the Lyndon War Memorial used to be. It should be UGN1, and it's currently C4. So with that, that concludes the presentation on that ordinance update. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Diba. Any questions from my council colleagues at this time? Again, I want to acknowledge Councilmember Remy, who I mentioned would be joining us. Thank you for being here. I think I do want to acknowledge that Councilmember Diakhauer is not with us, and this breaks her streak of perfect attendance at every zoning meeting, which I think she'd want me to mention, but I appreciate you being here. Any questions? So, Mr. Diba, just a couple really quick ones. So again, when you talk about sort of the response to the community feedback that we've received in the 60-day comment period, so the principal ones from a map perspective are the addition of several parcels out east of Cleveland Avenue, and then the removal of several other ones based upon the underlying zoning and some of the other things. That has sort of, from a map perspective, been the principal changes, correct?
Yes, and just to clarify, the ones to the east, those were already on the map when we started the 60-day public comment period. We added those after we showed a tentative map to the Northland Community Council.
Cool.
Correct.
Thank you. Seeing no additional questions, I think our next presentation is from our Chief Zoning Official, Shannon Pine.
Whoops, I went backwards. Good evening, Pro Tem Dorans, Council President Hardin, which he disappeared, and other members of council and the audience. Thank you for all being here this evening. As I am Shannon Pine, the Chief Zoning Official, and I'm here to discuss some exciting zoning code updates that we have as part of our Phase 1 update. First off, we have what we are calling the opt-in mechanism. This is a code change to the existing zoning code Title 33. When the zone-in legislation when we began to discuss how the current code was going to work and how the new code would be created, it was decided that when the new districts were created in Title 34, that only council could initiate new Title 34 districts. So that would prevent a property owner that maybe had a C4 district that was not caught in the corridors. They could not file a rezoning application to a Title 34 district. So this code change is looking at where we have parcels that directly abut the corridors, that perhaps they want to expand their site a little bit more to create a larger buildable area for their project. And we have come up with 2 scenarios that would allow somebody to file an application. So in the first scenario, you would have your abutting parcel would be combined with the Title 34 parcel. And if that parcel is in the Title 34 district predominantly, so more than 50% of the area of the parcel is in, let's say, UCR, the UCR district, and then the remainder is in the Title 33 district, the applicant could file application for review by the city departments, and we would prepare an ordinance and submit it for city council for consideration. So that's the first scenario. It's a condensed rezoning process, keeping in mind that the majority of the parcel is already in Title 34. The next scenario would cover all other applications of contiguous parcels, so across the alley, or if the combined parcel was predominantly in the Title 33 district as opposed to the Title 34 district, that would go through the normal rezoning process that we have now, where they would file their application, it would be reviewed by the city department, we would take it to the Development Commission, and then we would send it to City Council. So that kind of concludes what the Title 33 code update is. And before I move on to Title 34, I would like to find out if we have any questions from council members.
Ms. Pine, just so a couple of points on this, because this is something that we mentioned briefly at our April hearing that I think council have been talking a lot with you all about, and certainly there's been a lot, I think some discussion in sort of the community about how when you've got two different zoning codes, like how do they interplay with one another? And obviously the point of this legislation is essentially to help harmonize if there's sort of a difficulty in having, basically projects move forward when you've got sort of split zonings on if an owner owns two adjoining parcels, right? So a couple of clarifying questions just for folks that, may be paying attention to this. One of the things that we have said with these first initial zoning districts that we have, we were on the parcel and generally one parcel in. And that sort of moved around in the map based upon how deep, and how appropriate we thought that zoning district would be with the adjoining neighborhood. That's still going to be part of that review process, right? So when we think about some of the checks and balances that would come with this, that is, we still have, planning professionals at the city that basically would be evaluating, saying, hey, maybe this doesn't make a lot of sense because this parcel would go really, really deep into the neighborhood, even if it does meet, the more expedited route, right? Or, going under the other scenario, it still basically goes through the same rezoning process we have today, but it basically just allows folks to be able to utilize that Title 34 district, which up to this point, they haven't been able to.
Correct. Yes, and just to clarify, the map that we have up, if that yellow parcel, for example, was combined with the parcel to the north, the UCT district is definitely the predominant zoning on that property. So it would go through that condensed process, whereas if that same parcel, the yellow parcel, was combined with the parcel to the west, the residential district is predominant, and we would take it through the standard process.
And again, just to say out loud for folks, both of these processes would eventually come to council.
Correct.
So whether or
Public
not-
hearing, notice.
Correct. So
Yes.
all the standard things that we go through with the normal rezoning right now, where public is notified, whether or not they have the ability to go for the area commission or not, these things would still come before like this body. So if folks said, I don't like this, this, that, or the other thing, or here's the things that I would oppose, there would still be a public forum for that to occur.
Correct.
Prior to this body taking an action, correct?
Correct. Yes, and then part of our city department review would include some revised policy language where planning division would be looking at, how is this expansion of the Title 34 district going to cover any existing policies? Are going to be conflicts? Is it going too deep into the neighborhood? Is there an alley that perhaps should be moved or relocated or even added? So those are some of the things that we would be looking at when these applications come in.
And one last clarifying question, because I know Councilmember Beatty has some questions. Typically in Columbus, because our zoning code is so old, is that if you almost want to do anything, you've got to come get a rezoning or a variance. So we're very used to, folks having the opportunity to react to a project, right? This is being presented to an area commission. It's it's going to be X, Y, and Z development, so they have the opportunity to react to that. This is a little bit different in the sense of there may not be a project for either, an area commission to react to, or frankly for city council, because this is merely just evaluating the zoning district and whether or not it's appropriate within that place. And that may mean that someone builds something on it in the next year. That may mean something doesn't build anything on it for another 10 years. Is that is that fair?
Yes, that is fair. And even if they did have a site plan ready to go, it wouldn't be something that we would necessarily consider as part of our recommendation. If they have it and want to share it with us, that's great. That just gives us more information to maybe give some advice, like on an alley situation, for example. But yeah, they could just be coming in and saying, we just want to zone this parcel or this property, since we combined our parcels, we want the same zoning that the majority of the parcel has.
Thank you, which is why, again, I think it's so important. I think we're trying to shift the way that we're thinking about land use in the city, because typically it's project by project, where we're now trying to say, what does the city and community say we think is an appropriate level of development on these parcels? And I know that's going to take a lot to sort of retrain our heads, both here at the city and community members, to start to think that way, because again, our zoning code is so old that typically they have something, specifically to react to, because that's how we've just done it for decades here. And I think that's when we talk about this change, where you can almost have sort of proactive zoning, which is again what the city is doing in the zoning initiative, but now individual applicants can do so, again, in a limited area of the city based upon this change with allowing folks to bring in 34. Again, has to be basically a property that's connected, has to have that common ownership, all those sort of safeguards that are built into this.
Correct.
Councilmember Beatty? I think so.
All right, first thing, whoops. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, first thing is, on this particular example, which is the corridor? Which street is the corridor on this example?
Oh, what is that street? I can't
'Cause I'm
see
trying
that
to-
map.
Oh, the specific name?
I think it might be Fifth Avenue, or it might be Grandview Avenue.
Oh, no, I'm not the particular name of the street.
Oh, I'm
Are
sorry.
we talking about the north-south or the east-west on this particular example?
Okay, on this
Which is
particular,
the, okay.
yeah, so on this particular example, the residential parcel, it would depend on which way it combined. So if it combined with the north parcel, then that new parcel would be, the majority of that parcel would be zoned in the Title 34 district.
Okay, and then let me ask another clarifying question, and this isn't outlined on this particular example. So under the first scenario that you mentioned, the 50%,
Yes,
over 50% or more is in the 34 district,
correct.
And so are we limiting the other parcel that could be combined to only one parcel that's touching contiguous to the 34?
Correct.
Because okay, so a scenario where you would have, and particularly in these older neighborhoods where you have parcels that are going north-south and the ones up at the top might be east-west, you wouldn't have a situation where you could combine two 34, there's two parcels that are in 34, let's say it's one's here and then one's above it, and then the 34 is below it. And when you added up the distance, the two on top of it are still under 50%. You could not have that scenario because we're using the word contingent.
Contiguous, yes.
Contiguous, I'm sorry.
Yes. I believe, actually on this map, there are 3 contiguous parcels to
Okay.
the larger rectangular parcel that's already zoned UCT. So I would think that would qualify, because they are one parcel that is contiguous. They're 3 separate parcels, but if they were all combined together, I think that it would still qualify.
I see 4.
4? There might be 4. As long as they're touching. Yeah, as long as they're touching.
Touching.
Yes.
Now, a scenario
Yes.
where, I know this
Yeah.
might sound, we're taking examples and maybe reaching out a little bit, but it's a scenario where the applicant could combine the other parcels first to create one parcel, then that becomes all contiguous to the 34 district. That would allow them to potentially bring them all in.
Actually, the code specifies that the parcels have to exist in their current form at the time that the ordinance was adopted, and we would have a way to check that to see what it looked like.
Okay, all right, thank you very much for that.
Yes.
And Councilmember, if I could just add one other response to that issue that you raised. as Pro Tem Dorans mentioned earlier, we're going to be announcing Phase 2 in the near term, and all of these parcels will be a part of the next phase of the zoning initiative. So I think it's important to note that I don't want to call this a temporary or stopgap measure, but the reality is we're trying to make a way for projects, especially our much-needed residential projects that might be larger projects that don't fit on a current corridor parcel, to be allowed to have those move forward in the near term. But certainly, when you start talking about maybe the second or third parcel in, that's not quite in the residential areas, but didn't get captured under our Phase 1 initiative, those will be in Phase 2. And so later this year, we'll be talking about those parcels.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you, Director. And I think that's important to mention is that I think this is a piece of policy that's really important given sort of the in-between stage that we're sort of in between a Title 33 and Title 34, two different zoning codes. And I think the need for housing is very, very clear, which is clearly one of the motivations behind the zoning initiative to begin with. But I think if we have said as a community that we want to force more housing opportunities on corridors where we know there's more options for transit, the density has to go somewhere, and it seems like that's the place that's most appropriate for it, as compared to maybe areas that are more single-family developed. That allowing that initial expansion while also placing some reasonable restrictions on it, I think is an important stopgap as we want to see more housing develop within this initial phase of the corridors. I did want to pause and see if other council members had questions for Ms. Pine or Director Messer on those 2 points. Councilmember Remy?
I don't have a question per se, but I just want to thank you, Shannon Lewis, Director, for the work that you've done. Obviously, 161 was near and dear to my heart in Phase 1, and so I'm glad to see that come back around. Certainly, this is a response, the Title 33 changes are a response to what we heard in feedback, and certainly know, just looking and talking with other people about, being able to develop some of these sites with residential behind, and so it makes a lot of sense to make that change. This is a council that's very pro-housing. And, I talk about how we rank nationally. And I talk about my experience as a board member of the National League of Cities and knowing what other councils do across this country. This council's dedicated to the equitable growth of the city of Columbus. And so we're trying to do everything that we can to make sure that equitable growth is seen throughout the city. And so your work and right-sizing our 70-year plus code is incredibly important, because as we grow, whether we like it or not, we have to make sure that there's housing of all types, and that is housing affordability to even some of the most expensive homes. And so this work and the challenges that President Pro Tem does every single day with his committee is incredibly important to our sustainability long-term. So just want to thank you for that work, and thank you for the presentation this evening. I certainly appreciate it, and we look forward to Phase 2 and beyond.
Thank you, Councilmember. Director Messer, I did want to ask, so we obviously have the zone-in umbrella that we're doing sort of these big phases, some bigger than others, given the sort of size parcel here. But we also have a lot of policy work around sort of modernization efforts around the zoning process itself. One of those things that I would like to joke, come down to council at 6:30, watch paint dry during the zoning committee meetings. But there's lots of those different functions as it relates to a lot of things that fall under the BZS umbrella that have a direct relation to zoning and sort of development. One of those things is we know that our graphics code is particularly outdated as it relates to just development within the city today and sort of what we want that to be in the future. I know we have, we've mentioned this a little bit, but just a small portion of again, one of those sort of modernizations or reforms that we have teed up to hopefully go along with this package if possible, but certainly one of those policy related items that we would like to have modernized as we head towards full modernization of everything that we can. But we know we've got to take sort of bites of the apple, and I wanted to know if you could speak just briefly about that one small change of the graphics code that council will hopefully be considering either to go along with this package or soon.
Sure. Thanks, President Pro Tem. The graphics code, as you mentioned, is a part of the zoning code in Columbus. So it is a part of this zoning initiative. We are looking to modernize that code. And one of the specific areas that we're looking at to try to include in this package is a narrow change, specifically looking at some newer modern digital graphics. So they don't really fall under a lot of our current outdated definitions. You know, we use words like signs and billboards and things that are, you know, historically the type of language, whereas some of the new digital graphic designs that are making their way don't really fall uniquely in our code. So especially around and near our downtown area, we're referring to those as gateway digital graphics, and these new gateway graphics would be attached to existing buildings with limitations on size, location, distances apart from each other. These changes are all going to be reviewed by our graphics commission before they would come to council to be voted on. But I did want to just kind of highlight that narrow change. We'll be looking broadly at the graphics code with an eye to modernization, and this was one of the first small steps sort of narrowly focused around the downtown area.
Thank you, Director. And I know there's any number of other, sort of the small things that we want to sort of move towards, but it's sort of trying to prioritize and pick where we can sort of fit these in. Because I know you and your team, and certainly everyone who's working on this, has been putting a lot of hours in not only developing the policy, but also the community engagement that comes with that. So thank you for that. I appreciate your presentation, everyone, for being here tonight. I did want to just pause and see if any of my council colleagues have any additional questions for any of the department or city officials prior to us moving to public speakers.
There's one more ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't go over the Title 34 edits yet. If you would like me to
I
give
would
a
love for you
very
to do
brief,
that. Thank you.
rundown.
Take your time.
Okay. So yes, the third ordinance is, now that we've had Title 34, that we've been using it, that our zoning clearance staff has been reviewing projects, there have, of course, we could not foresee every single scenario that might come before us, like a project that has 4 street frontages, for example. So things of that nature where, some very minor typos were discovered, or a shift in a graphic just little things like that. So we're fixing all of those. So we've got some general definitions and land use definitions and measurements that we are going to be correcting in Article B. And in Article E, where one of the bigger changes is trying to clarify our ground floor depth, which is a requirement to not have a parking garage front right on the primary corridor. On a corner lot, we're requiring basically a 30-foot depth from the corner, the street frontage back. Would have to have the ground floor depth, but further back from that, they could have their parking garage in that area, and then also allowing for some vehicular access or utility room exemptions along a front street if it isn't a corner property. We're adding some prohibitions on chain link fencing and barbed wires, and maxing the fencing along the front of the street at 4 feet to keep that pedestrian feel. Clarified the bicycle parking. We have removed or relocated certain allowable uses in the use table. And one of the things that we are proposing are that farmers markets are allowed in all districts, because some people had mentioned that, why aren't farmers markets allowed on East Broad Street in the UCR restricted district? And I said, good question. Why did we not allow that? So it's allowed. Also, we removed the special permit requirement for dispensaries to coincide with the recent code change to Title 33 and the state of Ohio requirements for dispensaries. And we also are not allowing a standalone parking garage in the UGN 1 district, because we didn't really feel like in those areas that it was very a prevalent use. We slightly are adjusting some Article F supplemental district standards, applicability for modules, frontage type standards and large site standards, and then updating some general development standards for graphics and the affordable height bonus, just to coincide with our planned process for that. The height bonus itself is not changing, and that's pretty much it. So I'm happy to go into further detail on any of those if you have any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember, did you have a question?
I just have a wonder. What does the conversation look like as I think about some parts when we weave in and out of municipalities, right? And what our zoning, the changes to our zoning code, if there are unintended consequences, or what that conversation looks like with other municipalities if they have some concerns. I also think about folks who might be in like win-win districts and what that looks like or how they may experience that, or some of the concerns that we might be hearing, or even some of the conversations that we're having with our partner municipalities.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that most of these corridors were already in an urban or community commercial or regional commercial overlay. So we already had some standards that we captured with the new district. So I don't think as far as the like setbacks and that sort of thing changed that drastically. Probably the biggest change is not requiring a minimum number of parking spaces. And I haven't heard from any adjacent municipalities that were upset about that or concerned. If anything, they were looking at updating their codes and maybe becoming more like Columbus. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions? Councilmember Beatty?
Yes, and I just wanted to clarify, so, in these mixed-use districts, and this is in particular to the chain link fence, this is only for projects going forward. This isn't, no one's gonna be asked to take down a chain link fence. I mean, there's
Correct.
several corridors, South High and others that,
Yes.
because certain types of businesses are there, it might be, plumbers or whatever, and have chain link fences to protect their business vehicles and things like that. If those are
Yes.
already in existence, they're not going to be asked to tear those down, right?
That is absolutely correct. And if for some reason there was a business that didn't have the chain link fencing and felt that they need it, they could go through the variance process to
Okay, thank you
see
very
if it would be approved.
Thank you, Councilmember. Appreciate that presentation. Again, when you talk about trying to try to keep up with some of the changes, you talk about things like that farmer's market, that's, hey, why wouldn't we just address this now as we sort of move forward? But that's the kind of level of detail when we think about how do we make sure our land use policies are being thoughtful into the future, and why it's really helpful to do this all in a much more holistic way rather than just doing, one rezoning and one variance as one-offs. Actually think about the policy of things. So it's an exciting time for us to be doing
I'm
this
sorry,
right
can I ask you a question? Is there a code definition of a farmer's market?
Title 34 does define it, but I don't have it in front of me. I apologize, but it is defined. I can send it to you.
Unless there's any additional questions from council members, we will now turn to public testimony. Unless there's anything else from any of the administrative team. Great. So the first public speaker we have to come before us here tonight is Ms. Carly Booz from the Affordable Housing Alliance here in Central Ohio. Welcome back to council, Carly. Good to see you.
I will start by saying I think it's a real joy for me to be in front of you twice in 2 days. Maybe not as much for you as it is for me. But I do think it speaks volumes for the way that the city is addressing its housing needs, and it's hitting on so many different fronts, and it's really leaving no stone unturned. I think it's really emblematic of how we are going about solving this problem. This evening, though, I do want to say on behalf of the Affordable Housing Alliance that we want to share our support for this expansion of Zone N further into the Northland community. And that we believe that this is a dynamic, growing, and entrepreneurial neighborhood, which, like every part of our city, deserves to have a zoning code that lets it live up to its fullest potential and to serve both the housing and employment needs of its neighbors. The urban general, together with the community and regional action activity center designations, are not merely tools that rebalance the supply scales and generate more housing in the abstract. Rather, they are nuanced planning tactics that promote desirable neighborhoods that are walkable, interconnected, and well-resourced. Moreover, we at the Alliance are inspired by the circumstances that led to this proposal. The fact that the Northland neighborhood and the community itself advocated for this change and affirmatively requested this change is very compelling. Over the years, I have personally had the privilege of working with Elevate Northland and the Northland Community Council, and I just wanted to take a moment to express my gratitude for Alice Ward, Alice Fuller, and Jenny Leal, who have been advocates for their neighbors in a lot of different ways over the years. Based on recent research that our office had the privilege to conduct, an overwhelming majority of Columbus residents agree with those in Northland and believe that the policies Zone In embodies are both desirable and necessary for Columbus's continued evolution. As it is most relevant for the designations under discussion this evening, there is supermajority support for live, work, play zoning designations that better co-locate housing and employment opportunities in the same neighborhood, as well as policies that allow housing to be closer to shops and restaurants. I would also be remiss if I didn't note that that same survey found similarly high levels, supermajority high levels of support for reforms that fall outside of the geographies under discussion tonight, particularly those that can return greater control to individual homeowners over how they use their own land and how they design their own homes. The Alliance is eager to continue to support additional dialogue around the power of missing middle housing like duplexes and triplexes, as well as accessory dwelling units, to continue chipping away at those housing needs. And similarly, I want to reiterate our thanks for the parallel effort that is underway to double the city's investment in affordable housing bonds. Zoning modernization is certainly a best practice that ensures our laws are capable of serving today's needs while easing the housing shortages that lead to price increases. But to address the full breadth of our housing gaps, we must also marry that regulatory reform with economic contributions and legal policies that protect residents and prevent displacement. Housing bonds and the suite of housing legislation that this body has passed are all essential parts of that comprehensive strategy. So once again, I just want to thank you for allowing me to share our thoughts, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Booth, for being here, and I appreciate the call out to the neighborhood. When you talk about wanting to be transparent with the community, it's also a wonderful thing when you have community leaders on the front end who are saying, bring this to us and have a thoughtful discussion on what does that mean. I know we had a number of people that were with us at our first hearing. I know this is always an iterative process where we're trying to learn and both educate the community and also listen to folks at the same time. So I think it's a credit to this particular part of the city in particular about their willingness to take up this kind of effort as we continue to have additional chunks of the city be brought into this modernization, and thinking through to your point about what this area has meant to the city and what it is right now and what it is going to become over the next 10, 20, and 30 years. This really lays the foundation for so much of that future growth, which I think is incredibly important to be thoughtful about, rather than that growth just being, again, we've talked a lot about a one-off here, a two-off here, and that kind of thing. Much more of a comprehensive way for neighbors really to have ownership over what that community is going to look like. So thank you.
Absolutely.
We have one additional public speaker. We have Mr. Michael Osani, and John G. I apologize. If you wouldn't mind correcting that at the mic, just to make sure we have it correct. So thank you for being here, sir.
Absolutely. Hello, I'm Michael Ogunji. I grew up outside of 270, reside currently in the intersection between New Albany and Gahanna, but I have a connection to 161. Oftentimes, like, I would work in the Northland community. I would shop around there. I would eat around there, and to me, it's like a second home. So, I just wanted to express my gratitude to like the zoning officials and to City Council for making this change. It's like long overdue. And I never thought I would see like Northland being included as part of the zone, and it's a good opportunity for the residents. I mean, a lot of the residents are from multicultural backgrounds, and I truly believe that by upzoning Northland, we can show that Columbus is more than just like a monotone city. It's like a diverse city that's very inclusive to all residents. And I am looking forward to phase 2 coming along the way and the city becoming even better. So I'm so proud of my city. I'm happy to see like the city is improving in transportation. So I thank you guys for that. So it makes a huge difference. Even just like the littlest improvements just makes a tremendous difference. And I'm just happy to see the city grow each and every single day. So one of my questions I have about Northland is right now I notice like, I mean, the area, I mean, it's still consisting of strip malls and like stroads. I was wondering like with the zone and updates for 161 is council and like the zoning commission partnering with I think it's called the Mid Ohio Regional Planning Commission. Are they partnering with them in terms of like redesigning like some of the sidewalks and like the transportation corridor along that area?
Thank you for the question. I'm actually going to rely upon my colleague that has all things transit on her mind at all times, Councilmember Brosta de Padilla.
Yes, so we do we work, MORPC is the shorter version of Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. We partner very closely. So MORPC actually also, all of the dollars that come through because of Link Us, our new bus rapid transit system that the residents were in favor of, they actually are part of bringing the municipalities together for the planning of where those projects will go. So trails, bike paths, et cetera. The next, similar to Zone In, Linkus has different phases, different corridors that we're working on. West Broad Street is the one that is going to break ground this year. Then we're working on East Main Street. And then the third phase, if you will, or the third corridor, I should say better, is the West Corridor, which is parts of 161, Sawmill. It's that upper, like northern part of the city. And so that is currently in discussions and in design. And so that will be coming and it'll be coming online. The original intention of looking at Zone In and the phases were really to lay it on top of what we were thinking of those Link-Us corridors so that we could really drive our growth and our density to those corridors. So that's why you're going to see a lot of those changes in the corridors that I just mentioned. And then we could have up to 2 to 3 more lines as part of Link-Us. So the things that you're talking about are things that will be coming. It's a little bit transportation, it is a little bit zoning, and it is a whole lot of the people. And so it's really about providing those opportunities, those dollars, alleviating our zoning code to allow for innovation. And then it's really opening it up to folks who then want to partner in our community-based organizations to then really kind of rethink our neighborhoods and rethink about what Columbus looks like and the accessibility of Columbus.
Absolutely. That's excellent. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And before we have our last public speaker, I want to underscore that it's, and I'm glad that question was asked because you can't just have land use and not have thoughtfulness around transit. You can't have, thoughtfulness around land use and transit and then not consider housing. This is all connected, and it's why it's somewhat of a really exciting time to be in these roles. I think for everyone right now is that these are really big systems that I think we all know are deeply connected, that maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago, people didn't think of them that way, and it's really important to get this right as we think about what does the next 30 or 40 years of the city really have in front of it.
I was just going to mention one other thing for folks who are watching and for yourself. If you go to MORPC's website and you can actually Google it, you can see all of, they're called TSI, Transit Supported Infrastructure. It is all of the projects that would go around, and it was like 90 some projects all over central Ohio. So it's not just in Columbus, but it's other parts of the city as well. And so, or other parts of the state as well, other municipalities surrounding Columbus. So folks can look at that. They can see where those projects are going to go. Some of them are actually connecting our municipalities. So I think for the folks who are watching and very interested in where this is going to go, there's also a timeline at different points where you can actually give feedback into some of what those projects are. So there is an open time frame that happened with the first round of projects that will happen when the second round of projects come up.
Always helpful to have the chair of our transportation committee literally sitting in my right. So thanks for that update. The final public speaker we have come for council is Mr. Kaz Kumar? Kimura, thank you. Welcome back to council.
Yeah, good evening, President Pro Tem and council members. I'm just speaking on behalf of my neighbors in Harrison West, Harrison Society. I'm a member of that organization. I'm not sure if you received an email that might have touched on some of the points here regarding the council variance 25-001 rezoning application. That's at 515 and 555 West 5th Avenue, Founders Park Apartments. Most of my neighbors don't have driveways. This is a 348-unit building that I've spoken about before. There are about 383 parking spaces beyond the parking gate, where it's a secured parking area just for residents. The parking spaces outside of it, except for maybe 4 to 8 of them, are for retail parking that has yet to be used for any retail purposes. 5 points that they would like to cover is, one, this rezoning application, it worsens parking shortages. Adding a 60-unit building is something that they're looking to do under that variance. That would further reduce the amount of required parking and will intensify the area's severe parking crisis, is how they put it. Public safety is at risk. Number 2, Columbus Fire has publicly opposed this plan due to emergency vehicles being blocked by overflow parking, a problem that will worsen with added density and reduced parking. 3, it violates the approved development plan. Thrive is attempting to undo a publicly subsidized community-backed plan at the last minute for profit, undermining years of negotiated trust. 4, it harms home ownership and property values. Removing promised townhomes and condominiums in favor of more apartment buildings will depress home values and reduce long-term investment in the neighborhood. And 5, their last point, it does nothing for affordable housing. The proposed units are high-rent luxury apartments, not affordable housing. This is about revenue, not accessibility. So again, just speaking on behalf of my neighborhood society, it's an issue that's very important to them. Recently, there was the Harrison West parking permit area was redone, but yet they are still unhappy to some extent about the crowded parking, street parking there is. So while it has improved with that new parking permit area, they have a lot of reservations about this new building, and hearing that there are no required number of parking spaces, and I think I heard that right, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they may have some issues with that, so.
Yeah, appreciate being here. That particular piece of legislation has not made its way to council yet. My understanding is that applicant will be bringing that before the Development Commission. So for a rezoning, it goes before generally at least 2 bodies, either the Development Commission and then comes to City Council. If there's an area commission within that area, rezoning comes before them as well. In this area, there's not an area commission, so that's why it came before the Harrison West Civic Association. That project is not covered by the first phase of zone in, so they're still required to comply with the current parking requirements, which is 1.5 spaces per unit. They can certainly seek a variance, which I believe that project is in fact seeking a variance on parking. That is the number one variance that comes before us. 1.5 is a fairly blunt instrument as you think about, whether or not there's other parking options, what transit options may be available within that area. So my understanding is they are planning to seek a variance on that topic, but that legislation has not come before council yet. I'm not sure when it will, but it could be this summer or early in the fall. So certainly my policy as zoning chair is to make sure that we have an active dialogue with whether or not it's the area commission or whether or not it's a civic association that's within that area. But typically that does not happen until a project goes before the Development Commission. So we are still some time off from there. But I appreciate you being here tonight.
Yeah, just thought I'd throw that out there. That's all.
No, absolutely.
Thank you.
Did want to pause and see if my council colleagues have any closing remarks they'd like to make at this time. Seeing none, again, want to thank everyone from the administration that's here to present, and really all the hard work. I know we keep saying this is a small update, but the level of work is not certainly small. And the level of work, again, Director Messer was talking about having committed council members. We also have committed folks on the administrative side to also move this forward. This is not, one side of the building doing one thing and the other side doing another. It's truly a partnership between the two sides, trying to do the best we can to align our zoning and land use policies in a way that really reflect what we want the city to become and grow. So we want to thank the public who joined here today, some of which have been engaged on this particular pieces of legislation, others that are hearing about this effort and wanting to lend their voice to it as well. As I mentioned earlier, a record of this hearing will be on the city's YouTube site. That'll be posted tomorrow. If your folks are looking for the legislation or materials that were provided at this hearing, those can be accessed by tomorrow on columbus.gov/zoning update. Folks are always able to email me whenever they have the opportunity on this topic or anything else. My email address is radorans@columbus.gov. As it stands right now, we have ordinance number 1417-2025, ordinance 1418-2025, and ordinance 1419-2025 that'll appear on Columbus's City Council's agenda for first reading this Monday, and potential other legislation to go along with this package will also be considered by this council following the following Monday, on Monday, June 9th, here at 5 o'clock in council chambers, to hopefully make sure that we continue to move this effort forward. But again, I want to thank everyone for being here, and with that, we will close the hearing out. Have a good night, everyone.